This is the type of speaker that I am. I like to present challenges to my audience. So I would ask that each one of us are honest with ourselves. And I would ask that each one of us are honest with with what our efforts have been to not have to have Stop the Violence rally in the first place. We want to leave here today with a challenge, but that first requires all of us to be honest about our role in this situation. So in my time in trying to figure out what I wanted to say, I began to look in the book of Nehemiah. And when you look at Nehemiah and you look at what he was charged to do and the things that were going on with the children of Israel, I liken that to where we are now as a community. I liken that to where we are now as a people. I liken that to where we are now as a city. So when I'm sure you know that story, the children of Israel, they're so much like us. It's not even funny. If we're honest with ourselves, we'll see we're just like the children of Israel. Amen. We've been knuckleheads in our relationship with God, just like them, and it got us in some situations that we didn't want to be in. And so we cried out to God, and we got our stuff right, and God blessed us and restored us, and we went right back into that old environment, just like the children of Israel. And so you remember they were in Babylonian captivity, and the temple was destroyed, the city was destroyed, and the people were scattered. And so in Nehemiah chapter 1, we find Nehemiah asking his brother Hananiah about the condition of the people and of the city. Kind of like what we're doing today. We want to know what in the world is going on within our city. What is going on within our community? Does anybody want to know? Does anybody care to know what's happening with our young folk? What's happening with our old folk? Amen. We're all in this thing together. And so Hananiah told him that the people who had survived and escaped were greatly distressed, and they were a reproach. All because the city's walls hadn't been rebuilt. And he also told them that the city had been burned down, and no one had done anything to try and restore the city. So I look at Nehemiah and his charge, and I see us with that same charge. He was told that these people had survived, but they were still struggling. These people had survived, but they were distressed. They were still hurting. We survived 2014, amen. But some of us are distressed. Some of us are still hurting because of things that have happened in the past, and a lot of that, some of us may be hurting because of some young folk that were taken away from us way before their time. So we may be surviving, but we're struggling. Can we be honest today? It is good to come together, and it's good to celebrate, but let's not overlook the fact that the reason why we're having a Stop the Violence rally is because we are struggling. Amen? We have to do something about what's going on. We're here, we're surviving, we're maintaining, but nobody's thriving in this kind of environment. Amen? So, my question on the table, and I want us to really, really, really get this. Do we care enough to act? Do we care that we have a young man in the hospital now still fighting for his life because of some senseless violence? Do we care that the people that Sister Mariah mentioned in her tribute, do we care that those folks should still be here? Do we understand that if we don't care, nothing gets done? If we stay silent, nothing changes. If anything, what's going to happen is this is going to get worse. So I want to challenge all of us. I know we care. I'm not questioning whether or not we care or whether or not we have enough heart But I want to know, do we care enough to act? Do we care enough to say, today I'm going to make changes? When Nehemiah found out the condition of the city and the condition of the people, it says that he wept and he prayed and he fasted for many days. He prayed, he wept. We can cry a river of tears for all of the situations that we know about that has happened to our young people. We should be heartbroken. We should be disappointed in what's happening with our young folk. We should be disappointed with what's happening with us as adults. And Nehemiah, I truly believe that he was upset and he cried and he wept and he prayed and he fasted because he understood that he wasn't doing enough. Because he wasn't the one messing up. He wasn't the one that was struggling. It was his people struggling, but he felt he was partly responsible. And that's our problem today. We like to there's such a disconnect between our young folk and our older folk. There's such a disconnect between the folk who have made it and the folk who have not made it. And we need to change that. And we can only change it if we care enough to change it. So what Nehemiah did, he after he prayed and after he cried and after he felt so heartbroken and sorrowful for the folk, he wanted to rebuild those city walls. And I want to suggest today that there's a lot of stuff that we need to rebuild as well. Does anybody care that the YMCA is not what it used to be? Amen? Does anybody care that kids are being bullied mercilessly in our schools? Do we care?
Sure.
Do we care enough to act? Do we care enough to say, today is the day we do something about it? And let me make this point. Let me say this. I really didn't want to have to go here, but I feel it's just pulling at me. I have to go here. And I'm almost done. You know, the children of Israel, when they were in captivity and the temple was destroyed, you remember they went a long time before they rebuilt the temple. They took care of their houses, they took care of themselves, and they didn't want to rebuild the temple of God or bring it up to speed. They didn't want to rebuild the church that was in their city. And so a prophet was sent to them, and they were charged to, until you rebuild the temple, nothing good is going to come to you. So they got to it and they rebuilt the temple, but the city walls stayed burnt and torn down for another 70 years. Anybody see where I'm going with this? We have, how many churches we have in this community? Can I go there? Y'all should know where I'm going. We have way too many churches in this community for our community to be struggling. We may be having way more celebrations than we should based on how our community is looking. Based on how our young folk are acting, we may need to cut out on the celebrations and start going and meeting people where they are. I didn't want to say that. Y'all looking at me funny. I need a crowd that understands what I'm saying. I'm not talking down on church folk because I'm one of those people. And trust me, I'm talking to myself too. I know I haven't done what I was supposed to do to address the issues of our youth. And you haven't either. But thank God for Sister Adela, because it's going to start today. It's going to start today. We have to understand that when it comes to our young folk, we don't need to try and act like we never messed up. We talk to young folk nowadays and we make it like we all grew up in the church and sang in the choir and we were preaching from 10 years old and we never had any struggles, we never had any issues, and we think our young folk are going to listen to that. We should know how to address youth violence because a lot of us adults were violent when we were kids. Some of us like to fight. And we wonder why our kids really like to fight. So somebody mentioned if we want to really make change, it starts in the home. It starts in the home. Our kids are doing what they've seen from us. You know? That's where they get that craziness from. We got kids that will fight and perpetrate violence and record it and put it on World Star like it's really something. And then we have the nerve to get upset with police for not wearing police cameras. When we're recording fights and laughing about it. Boy, it got quiet right there. It got quiet, but that's true. I didn't write any notes down. This is all coming from right here. I wanted to speak from the heart. Because that's what we need, Amarillo. That's what we need, North Amarillo. That's what we need, people. We need to be honest with what's going on. We need to be honest about what our role has been. To some extent, I believe we failed our young folk. We have let them down because we haven't cared enough to act. You know, when these walls were rebuilt and Nehemiah got the people together in chapter 2, verse 18, when he explained to the people the condition and how sad of a condition it was, the people said, "Let us rise and rebuild." So as a people, today, we need to say, let us rise and rebuild.
That's it.
Our kids are struggling. Our kids are hurting. They're still here, they're still surviving, but they're hurting. They're struggling. And we have to care enough to act. And so when this temple was rebuilt, this is one of the last points I want to make. It was not just an effort of the leaders. We depend way too much on our leaders. And then we get mad at them when stuff don't happen the way we want it to happen. But when it comes to this kind of change, everybody needs to be involved.
That's right.
It can't be something that you leave to the keynote or you leave to Sister Idella and Brother Keith and these young folk and all the folk that have participated here. There's no way in the world we can do this by ourselves. You read it in Nehemiah chapter 3 also, there's a list, the whole chapter is full of people who helped. And kids were named. It mentions one man had his 3 daughters out there helping rebuild the walls. So if you got children, what a great way to teach your kids service than to allow them to get in on this issue and make changes. Because who knows young folk better than young folk? And somebody may be asking, well, what is it that we can do? Well, can you talk? Can you reach out and extend a word of encouragement to a young man or a young woman you know that's struggling? To a family member that you know is struggling. I have nephews, amen. And contrary to what you might think, they're not perfect. We're not perfect either. So I need to be more vocal in my own family. You need to be more vocal in your own family. Because a lot of times I think we say people are going to do what they are going to do. Anybody ever get that mentality just to keep from having to do anything? We say, well, whatever happens is based on the choices that they made, but what kind of options are we as adults giving our kids? One of the things we talk about at Boys Ridge, my boss is standing right there, Adrian Jackson, wave your hand. One of the greatest people that I know outside of everybody in my family. But we talk about what we do at Boys Ridge, and that is give our young folk options. Our kids need options. You know why they're doing the stuff they do? They may not know there's something else to do. Amen? They may not know that there's another way to settle the difference. You know? They may not know that they don't have to resort to violence. They may not know that we can.